The true story of the cursed music box of Ravenshire, a paranormal investigation by Dr. Hans Holzer. In 1969, Dr. Hans Holzer received an urgent letter from Margaret Ellsworth, a young woman living in Ravenshire, Connecticut. She was terrified, not for herself, but for her 8-year-old daughter Lily. Margaret had recently purchased an antique music box from a local estate sale. It was a delicate wooden box, beautifully hand-carved with a small brass crank on the side. The tune it played was eerily beautiful, yet haunting, a song Margaret had never heard before. But shortly after bringing the music box into their home, strange and terrifying events began to unfold. At night, Lily would wake up crying, saying a woman was standing in her room, singing. The music box played by itself, even when it was closed and unwound. Margaret sometimes heard whispers coming from Lily's bedroom, but when she checked, the little girl was alone. One night she found Lily sitting upright in bed, humming the music box's tune, but her eyes were closed, and she was unresponsive. Margaret was at her breaking point. She feared something had attached itself to her daughter, something that came from the cursed music box. Desperate, she reached out to Dr. Hans Holzer, pleading for help before it was too late. The investigation began with a dark melody, a tune that seemed to echo through the very walls of the Ellsworth home. Dr. Holzer arrived at the Ellsworth home with his trusted psychic medium, Ethel Johnson Meyers. The moment Ethel stepped inside, she shuddered and grabbed Dr. Holzer's arm.
Hans, there's something here. A woman. And she's grieving.
Margaret brought out the music box, setting it on the table. The wood looked old, worn from time, but the carvings were intricate and elegant. The moment Ethel laid eyes on it, she froze.
This belonged to someone who died, tragically, and she hasn't moved on.
Dr. Holzer wound up the music box, and a soft, eerie melody filled the room. The moment it started playing, a gust of icy wind swept through the house. The temperature dropped instantly, and a faint sobbing sound echoed through the room. Lily, who had been sitting on the couch, suddenly tilted her head, her eyes glazing over. She started humming along with the tune, the exact same way Margaret had found her in bed that night. Margaret rushed to her daughter, shaking her lightly.
"Lily, sweetheart?"
But Lily didn't respond. She simply kept humming, swaying slightly, as if someone unseen was rocking her gently. Then, Lily whispered in a voice that was not her own.
"She just wants her baby back."
Margaret gasped. Ethel looked at Dr. Holzer, her face pale.
Hans, this spirit is a mother in mourning, and I fear she's trying to take Lily as a replacement for the child she lost.
The history of the music box is quite intriguing. It dates back to the late 1800s, a time when handcrafted items held immense sentimental value. Dr. Holzer began digging into the history of the music box, tracing it back to the estate sale where Margaret had purchased it. The home had once belonged to a woman named Isabella Langley, a wealthy widow who had lived there in the late 1800s. According to town records, Isabella had lost her only child, a daughter named Eleanor, to scarlet fever. Devastated, she spent years locked away in her home, clutching her daughter's favorite possession, a handmade music box that had played the lullaby she once sang to Eleanor every night. Neighbors reported that Isabella often spoke to the music box, believing her daughter's spirit was still inside it. In 1893, Isabella was found dead in her rocking chair, the music box clutched tightly in her hands. Witnesses said her face was frozen in an expression of anguish, as if she had died mid-sob. After her death, the house was abandoned for decades, and the music box remained locked away until it resurfaced at the estate sale nearly 80 years later. It seemed Isabella's grief had bound her spirit to the box, and when Margaret unknowingly brought it home, the spirit saw Lily as the child she had lost. The haunting intensifies. That night, Dr. Holzer and Ethel decided to conduct a séance to communicate with Isabella's spirit. As they sat in a circle around the music box, Ethel placed her hands on it and closed her eyes.
Isabella Langley, we know you are here. Speak to us.
For a moment, silence. Then, the music box began playing on its own. The candles flickered violently. A soft weeping filled the room. Then the temperature plummeted, and a shadowy figure appeared in the doorway. A woman in a black Victorian mourning dress, her face hidden by a veil. Margaret gasped, clutching Lily protectively. Ethel's voice was firm but compassionate.
Isabella, you cannot take this child. Eleanor is gone, you must move on.
The shadow shuddered as if in pain. Then Lily, still in a trance, spoke in that same eerie voice.
"She says she doesn't know how."
Tears filled Margaret's eyes.
"Please, let my daughter go."
Dr. Holzer nodded and took the music box in his hands.
Isabella, your child is at peace.
A soft sob escaped from the spirit. The shadowy figure lowered her head, then began to fade. The moment she disappeared, the music box stopped playing and Lily snapped out of her trance, blinking in confusion.
Mommy, what happened?
Margaret pulled her daughter into a tight embrace, relief washing over her. Ethel touched the music box one last time and smiled softly.
She's gone. She's finally with her daughter again.
The aftermath, the final goodbye. Dr. Holzer instructed Margaret to bury the music box at Eleanor's grave, finally reuniting it with the little girl it had belonged to. A week later, Margaret reported that the house felt lighter, the strange occurrences had stopped, and most importantly, Lily was safe. Dr. Holzer later wrote in his journal, "This was not an evil spirit, but a lost one. Isabella was not trying to harm Lily. She was trying to hold on to the only thing that reminded her of her child. In the end, all she needed was closure. If you felt a chill while listening, you're not alone." There are more haunted truths waiting to be told, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell, or the next knock you hear just might be from the other side.